I am so grateful you're here. I'm Becca Bateman, as you know, and we have a couple of other presenters for today that I wanted to introduce. We have Chris Nardo. Everybody give him a round of applause. And he's going to be giving us a little chat and then some filling in the blanks for what it might mean for building blocks of financial security within your younger kids or your older kids. But really, we all should use some conversations about finances. And that's really what it is. This series that's going to go 3 weeks is about how to have hard conversations. So we had last week how to have hard conversations about your estate planning. And then this week is how to hard conversations with your family members that are little and medium sized. And then next week, I invite you to come back because we're going to be having hard conversations about what it means for end of life. And we're actually having the Doylestown Hospital chaplain for hospice come, Phyllis Ward, who it would be wonderful to get to know her prior to actually needing her services. So how to have those hard conversations. She's often in the rooms where family are having those conversations, and she always wishes that families had those conversations beforehand. So. And because talking about finances is sometimes a little dry, although Chris is going to make it very wonderful, we wanted to share some real life stories of a family who has had 4 kids and trying to teach them some building blocks of financial security. So we have the Ford family who's going to be joining us, so you can give them a round of applause. Grateful for that. So I'm going to open us up with prayer and then give us a little biblical framework, and then we'll go from there. Let's pray. Dear God, we're so grateful to have the opportunity to have people around us, and it is in those communities that we have honest conversations and also lament about how things aren't going so well or are going so well and share. So we're thankful for that, and we're also thankful for your continued guidance about how we should be. And even though your words happened so long ago that we have, finances are something that haven't changed. It is a barter system that we have with one another. And so we're thankful to talk about that. In your name we pray, amen. So when I was thinking about what it might mean for financial security between talking about kids and older kids, I was brought to the passage in Ephesians 4. Everything connected with an old way of life has to go. It's rotten through and through. Get rid of it, and then take on an entirely new way of life, a God-fashioned life, a life renewed from the inside and working itself into your conduct as God accurately reproduces his character in you. And it made me think about how we have practices, we have things that we value, and those are given to us by what we care about, or our likes, or our DNA, or what our family has given to us as likes. But then the scripture invites us into this thought: what and how might we reprioritize things in our life so that Christ is first? And some examples might be, for instance, your finances. What are the sorts of things that you would have given all of your money to? And then with Christ in your life, how might you reprioritize something to having something else be much more important in your life all of a sudden? Because everything is connected, and your old life has to go. And God has the power to reproduce his character in you. So here's the question that I loft to you. What are some habits that you grew up with from your family that you've named and created and have been a pattern in your own life and executed and maybe taught to your own kids? Okay. And then, what might it mean for you to reprioritize things in your life in accordance with how Christ might have it? And it might be the same. In what ways might it be different? And then, how have you modeled those things to your own children? And that's what we're talking about today. A reprioritizing about what is important in your life and how you communicate that with your children. And we can do this because we have a supportive community and we have educated people trying to tell us things. and we also have God's love and support for us. And with that, I give you the Ford family.
Thank you. I'm Lauren Ford. This is my husband, Damian. And when Becca asked us to talk about this, I feel like we did the best we could as parents. Our kids are mostly grown, but a lot of the things that you plan and talk about with 4 kids especially kind of becomes a blur. So to look back on those things and kind of try to say, how did we do this and what did we talk about? It was interesting for us to kind of think about our lives growing up and our kids' lives growing up. We have 4 children. We have Honor and her twin brother Layton, who are 24, and they are both out of college and living on their own. We have Miranda, who is 20 and a junior at Temple, and Logan, who's 15 and in 10th grade at East. And looking back on it, I really feel like before we had kids, we had a lot of ideas as to how we were going to raise kids and how things would go. And most of them did not happen the way I kind of thought they would, but I think we did a pretty good job trying to make a good family life for them and for us. We tried things like chore charts when they were younger. We tried things like bribery for good grades, and if you would go to activities, getting along with your siblings, that kind of thing. Most of those things didn't last really long for me. We kind of got busy, things would get in the way, we wouldn't stick to the chore charts, so they'd last maybe a couple weeks to a couple months, and then we would just rip down basically empty charts that didn't give them any sense of anything.
I also think that the kids were motivated in different ways, and so some of them were thrilled to get an extra few dollars to spend, and some of them could have cared less. So
yeah.
It was a big range.
Yeah. My brother and I grew up in the family business that we now work in, and I think that is how we learned financial education. It wasn't necessarily sitting down. We did things like talk about savings accounts and talk about not spending too much on things. But we also saw my parents from a very young age very intently, building their business up and trying to, and we saw a correlation between that, obviously, and how we were living. My parents would say to me, do you guys want to go to McDonald's for dinner? And we would be all excited, go out to the car, there would be furniture in the car, there would be making a quick few deliveries before we went. And I think that was, that taught us this is what we have to do the fun things we do in life. They never really made us feel nervous about how they were doing and how the store was doing, but it was clear that was, it doing well was how we were going to make a good life for ourselves. So we watched, my dad was very, it was very much a one-person show early on in the business. He would stay up late doing the paperwork, doing taxes, get up really early and go to work. For a while, our front porch was part of our warehouse, so furniture would be put on there before it would be delivered. So it was very much something we were learning right firsthand. We would go in and help out with the business, which our kids kind of did too, just kind of helping us, not really working there, but kind of helping out with what we were doing. So I think in that sense, that is how my brother and I kind of learned it, just really watching our parents do a lot of the day-to-day tasks and really getting into their business. But Damian's was a little different.
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of my family background. It's a little bit different. I grew up in a family of 6, and we were very aware of our financial challenges and wins in our family. My parents were very responsible with their money, but they had both worked for separate union jobs at separate companies, which meant periodically over time you'd have strikes, negotiations, other things that would disrupt kind of the financial income for our families. And so it would, we would sit down and talk about how we were going to deal with my dad not working or my mom not working at the time, and the adjustments we had to make ends meet. So when I was 12, I wanted to be a paperboy in my neighborhood, and I was 3 years younger than the age that was kind of the cutoff for when they would allow somebody to go out on the road and be a paperboy. Eventually, with my mom's blessing and a lot of pressure to his name was Charlie Merrick. He was the publisher and founder of the Quakertown Free Press. We convinced him that I could be out there on my bike in a neighborhood delivering approximately 30 papers every single day. So I got the job. I used some of that money. It included, I used it to buy things personally that I wanted. I used it to pay for little expenses. I learned a whole lot. The job included life skills, including, let's see, I learned sales, I learned collections and billings, I learned accounts payable, I learned how to take care of my bicycle. I learned that when I was away on vacation, I needed somebody to fill in for me, so I was kind of a temporary employer. I saved and paid for many things, mostly things that I wanted. But the money, I knew there was value in earning money as a child. So I knew when I did want something, I would have to ask my parents, and I knew that ask would be stronger if I had skin in the game. Having that money gave me the confidence to go and present to my parents, hey, I'd like to buy this new 10-speed bicycle. I have this much money set aside that I've saved. Could we work out something where I would end up getting a new bicycle for my job? And after some negotiating back and forth, we'd come up with a goal, and we'd set a budget, and I'd see ahead of me what I needed to do in my paper route or other birthday money that I would collect, and I knew exactly what I had to do to get that bicycle. So as I was growing up, I remember discussing with my parents things like the cost of college. We would talk about the cost of the applications to apply for college. I know for a fact my mom held back one of my applications because I had already been accepted somewhere that I was excited about, and frankly she couldn't afford the other school that I was looking at. So she told me later that she held back that application, which I remember being a pretty expensive check at the time, and I was fine with it. I worked summers during that time and holidays at Hendrickson's Furniture to help pay off some of my student loans I was accumulating, and also to visit with this cute girl that I knew, that I had met in high school. And so that became a job of convenience, and also it was a lot of fun to get to know the family, and they graciously invited me into their business very shortly after we were married as an owner, which I really, that meant a lot to me. With marriages 50% ending in divorce, that's a big vote of confidence, and I never forgot that. I thought that was really sweet of your parents. All these skills that I learned through my paper route, through working at Hendrickson's, definitely carried over to my adult life, and hopefully we pass some of this on to our children. Did you want to?
I think our children learned most of their finances the way we kind of did through kind of some talking about it, some kind of sitting down, some kind of regulated things, but also just watching us do things, watching us not overspend, watching us talk about should we get the new car that we can afford, but maybe we can wait a little bit longer with what we have. We never encouraged our kids really to get jobs when they were in high school because we kind of felt like there was so much in high school that we wanted them to be doing, all the activities, all of the in-school activities and out of school. Miranda did get a job through high school and seemed to make that work, but for most of them,
and Honor and Layton also, they were a server at Pine Run. That's right.
But we really wanted them to take advantage of the activities, and we didn't want them to not be able to do things because a job made them go there. We kind of felt like that was a good time for them to be part of the activities. But we also talked a lot about the activities of 4 kids is very expensive, and we wanted them to know, if you're going to make this commitment, it's not only a commitment to the actual activity and being a part of it, but it's financially, it's a commitment for us. And that means you need to go to that activity. You need to fulfill whatever time period you've said you're gonna go to. And, you know, sometimes they were tired, sometimes they'd had a long day at school, but they needed to know that we were paying for it whether they went or not. So it was part of their commitment for us. When the twins went to college, Honor had, like Honor does, applied early, gotten accepted, gotten scholarships, did well. Leighton applied a little later. He was about midway through his senior year, and it was at a time where University of Maryland, he was off the cutoff for getting scholarships there, and that's really where he wanted to go, he decided. So Damian had a discussion with him. He was a little more expensive than we wanted. He hadn't gotten a scholarship, and you know, it was out of state, so it was going to be a commitment for us. And he decided that's where he wanted to go. He was very smart when he went, got a job on campus, right at his desk in the dorm, and that paid for him to get some spending money, some savings for himself. But the next year he got an RA job, which helped us because that paid for his room and board. Now he wasn't earning any money that he could have personally, but it was helping us. So then he also got a tutoring job on campus, so that he would have a little bit of his money back and we were still getting taken care of. So it worked out well, just kind of putting that in his head, like, we'll pay for your college, we want you to go.
I remember he asked a specific question. You know, he wanted to know exactly how much it cost for him to, for us to pay for room and board. And I remember when he asked that question, it was just kind of out of the blue. And then a couple days later, he came back to me and said, hey, I'm looking at this RA job. And he said, I think this is going to work out for me to pay for our room and board. And it wasn't something I prompted, it wasn't something I asked him to do. I wasn't even really thinking that that was an option, but he was very fortunate. It saved us tens of thousands of dollars, which was awesome. So I really feel like that was a win, you know, a teaching win, that he saw that we were, you know, it was a little bit of a stretch for us. I specifically mentioned to him that we would probably have to sell some stocks in our savings account to make those extra payments for the college. And he took that and took it seriously, and made those decisions later.
Yeah. So I think overall we have done a pretty good job with our kids. They're very responsible. They live within their means. They have different kinds of lifestyles, but they really do practice financial, you know, responsibility for themselves. But I can't say that it's any one thing we did. I really think it's kind of how we've lived our lives, that we've been open with them about what we can afford and not afford, and I think they've listened.
Yeah. So I'll just finish with our personal and family business finances. When we need to collectively rein in spending, or when we need to consider an expensive purchase, or any purchase, frankly, we do talk about it in the open. You do that in the business world. You talk about it with your coworkers. You talk about it with managers. You talk about it with people that are invested in that business unit, or in our case, our family unit. We think it's important that you have those conversations so that there's no misunderstandings, so that everybody understands where everyone's coming from. And then you can kind of sit back and maybe think about an ask, maybe a financial ask, or something that you want to buy, or something that is going to cost money for the family. You'll have a better perspective when you're making that ask. So money is not everything, but having the necessary tools to manage personal finances is an invaluable life skill, and I think it's important that we pass that on to our children. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's time for you.
Sorry, I should have introduced Chris Nardo.
Fine. Good morning, everyone. Thank you first of all, thank you for coming. I wasn't expecting so many people, but appreciate you coming out. I'll move the mic here. What we're going to talk about is modeling financial habits. It's going to be basic. It's help your child begin their financial journey, but with the people here in the room, know your audience. This could be yourself personally. This could be the grandkids. This could be friends or family. So it's just not necessarily about the younger ones in the room, in the family. Planning for financial success. financial products. I'll give you a summary. We'll talk a little bit about payment apps and some resources for you. But before we get started, when you're having conversations and talking about money, I think one of the key things is people forget about how awesome it is, and this is a banker, compounding of interest. So you can save a little, get a little bit of interest, and over time, in 10 years, you have over $4,000. In 20 years, you have $12,000. In over 30 years, you have $29,000. Well, how do we get there? That's just assuming you're 20 years old, you're putting $25 per month, and over a period of time, whether it's 10, 20, or 30 years, you assume an average return rate of 7% if you invested in some index funds or whatever you're invested in. So I think underlying these money management is it's not so much about the return, but it's just small victories, little things over time will help you and your family. So we'll get into it here. Who am I? Chris Nardo. I've worked in retail and commercial banking for over 30 years. Very experienced in developing, planning, executing financial growth strategies. I'm going to impart some of my wisdom, how this can benefit you. I'm experienced in relationship management. We'll get to that. Relationships, Damian and Lauren talked about, whether it's your spouse, people in your family, business associates, relationships do matter. And I've worked in a lot of different banks in this area, a lot of different experiences. One of the key things, your number one thing you want to do is, what's my financial strategy? And it can be a piece of paper, it can be a spreadsheet. Early in my career, some people use cocktail napkins to write things down when they're at lunch so they don't forget it. But what's your spending and saving plan? For the month, for the year. Again, keep it simple. You don't have to get into too many details. Pen and paper still work. If you don't want to get into the digital, the digital world. As I move along the presentations, I'll throw some things at you, but there's an app, a website you can use called Mint, which can you can download your information into, and you can easily see things and look at it on your phone, your computer, and you can share it with people. So there are easy tools out there for you to use, and we'll get into that in a little bit. When you talk about financial products, you want to say to yourself, how is this going to help me save money, spend money, manage my money, and maybe borrow money? You want to start with your own needs. We'll talk a little bit about apps, but if I use PayPal, if I use Venmo, why am I using this? Why am I paying this person this way? So some things to think about. So before we start moving along here, you have to ask yourself, does everybody here in the room, let's have a show of hands, where do you bank? Do you know where you bank currently? Okay.
Yeah.
When I say bank, it could be a credit union. But I haven't worked in a credit union. I've worked in the banking business. So when I use the terms, it's like interchangeable. For a show of hands, who's your banker? Do you know who your banker is? Do you have a Candy? Do you know who your banker is at your bank? Okay. All right. Tom, do you know who your banker is?
I'm not sure who my banker is.
Okay. Well, if I impart one thing to you this week, where do you bank? Who's your banker? Okay? I bank at CNN. My banker is Tom Macklin. I have his phone number, his cell phone number, and I have his email. So I can easily get a hold of Tom. Those are the three things you want to have. My bank, who's my banker, and their contact information. Because when something comes up in your financial life, you need someone to call and speak to them about that. So I think that's very important. Second thing, irrespective of your age in the room here, how many of you digitally connected to your bank? If you're not digitally connected to your bank and looking at your account at least once a week, that could be an issue. There is a lot of fraud. You hear these stories, people have their money stolen. You have direct deposits come to your account. When did this check clear? In some capacity, either you, your spouse, or someone in your family needs to be digitally connected to the bank, and you need to know what's going on. A lot of it now is on your phone. Your bank will have an app, and you can look at it, right on your mobile phone. How many of you here use your mobile phone to do your banking? Can I see a show of hands? All right, that's good. That's good stuff. Okay. And we heard about this from the Fords. Deposit products. How do you get yourself set up and some good habits? Well, with our girls early on, we set up savings accounts. Okay. You can set them up for minors, so they can put their birthday money, money they get for holidays, other things. You can put it in a savings account. Right now, we're in a rates up environment, so on savings accounts and certificate deposits, which is a way to lock in your money for a period of time and get a better return. It's a good way to save over time. Checking accounts, we'll get to that in a couple of slides, the next slide. And money markets are very similar to savings accounts, and you can also write checks off of. If I have a show of hands here, how many people in the room here have a savings account? Okay, good. You often hear, whether you're little or an adult, is, do you have enough for 3 months of living expenses? Do you have enough for maybe 6 months of living expenses? Whatever you think your comfort level is, it could be 30 days. Little things can add up over time. So you want to be thinking about, what can I do to maybe save over time? And there's really some neat things you can do with that. You want to get yourself and your children especially when you have a paper route. I worked in the Cock and Bull when I was in high school, and things have advanced quite a bit since I was in high school. So getting a checking account, debit cards, it's a way to do purchases, to manage your money, checks. I think there's some people out there still write checks. I do from time to time. And the key is your statements. I'm a little over the top. I reconcile my accounts on a regular basis. I use a product called Quicken. Download your information. You can reconcile. It's real quick, real easy. Comes with a mobile app, so you can see it online. It's really easy to use. The takeaway is, with checking accounts is, especially for your kids, and even those in college, it's a tool to manage your money. Like, okay, how am I going to pay for my books? How am I going to go out to the as you get older, go out to dinner with my friends, and those type of things. So though, accounts, bank accounts are just kind of like a foundation for you to build on. a little more information. Using a savings account or money market, it's good for children, for yourself. You can save money for the future. Typically, interest rates are going to be higher than on your checking account. And these are products used. You're not going to do a lot of transactions. You're saving money, something for the future. Credit products. Credit cards, especially for younger folks, I would say tread carefully with credit products. If you can't pay off, if you have to make a big purchase and you can't pay it off at the end of the month, that's okay. Don't panic, but have a plan. Maybe over 3 months I'm gonna pay it down, or over 6 months I'm gonna pay. The APRs, the annual percentage rates on credit cards, anywhere from 18 to 24% is a lot of money to pay on your, so you want to manage your purchases. Consumer loans. I was happy to hear when your child's ready to go to college, or they're in college, or maybe they're transferring to a school, maybe they're going to graduate school, how much is this going to cost me? And when I get out of school or graduate school, am I going to be able to afford the payments? So it's just not about getting into school, but a school you can afford, and then make those student loan payments. Plenty of information out there. If you typically you go out to your bank website, they have a whole page of like financial calculators. I'll give you a name of another one here, which is the end of my slide here. Home equity loans, lines of credit. That's when as your kids get older, you can talk about that, and mortgages. Right now, with a higher interest rate environment, mortgages might be less affordable for some people, so it might be better to rent. That we could spend a whole session on, which I don't know. Okay, so some tools to save for your children's future. 529 plan. Kim and I, when the girls were younger, we started a 529 plan. It's a great way for you to save some money, put it aside. People from the family can contribute, and it grows into a nice nest egg. You can use that for college, and then when they move on to graduate school, they could, or certificate program, they could use it. UTMA accounts. A lot of customers over here have said, Chris, what the heck does UTMA mean? Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. That's what UTMA means. So you might see that on your investment statement or your bank statement. In the state of Pennsylvania, age of majority is 21. Most of my customers over the years, by the time the kids hit college, that first year of tuition, it just sucks the account dry. So usually there's no money left for
What is that used for specifically? I don't even know what that is.
Well, it's a way for you to, the account's titled in a way that you're the custodian, the adult, okay? It could be a grandparent, you could be the uncle, and the child actually owns the money. It's under their Social Security number, but it's a way to restrict, it's a way to restrict access, you as a parent. So you can show them the benefits of saving money, but they can't, walk into the bank and do a withdrawal against that. But during their time that the money is in this UTMA account, I mean, I would go in with Sophia and Emily, and we go into the bank and make deposits, and they could see how much they have in their account. So it's a neat way to get the kids engaged. Roth or regular IRA, as soon as they start working, I started that for our daughters. I know that's a little crazy, but when you're in the business, compounding of interest.
Yeah.
Later, you can have discussions. I threw this in here. 401ks and 403b plans. It's just a way of continued savings. Like if your employer doesn't offer a retirement plan, IRA is the way to go. if your employer does offer a 401k, or if you're in the nonprofit world, Kim has a 403B plan. It's like a 401k, great way to save money over time. And again, it restricts your access. You can set it up, forget about it, and it's just money coming out of your paycheck every week, every 2 weeks, every month, and it just grows in a nice nest egg over time. Notwithstanding the past year. It's a little crazy. Any questions? Because I've been talking a lot, and any.
When you talked about reconciling your accounts, what is the process that you go through?
Reconcile account. There is a worksheet typically in the back of your bank statement. You put in your beginning balance. Okay, where did I start this month? Here's all the checks that have cleared my account during that month. Here's my deposits. Here's my ending balance. Okay, so does that match my checkbook? Whatever your checkbook is. That could be a spreadsheet. That could be a sheet of paper. That could be Quicken or QuickBooks. That's a way to reconcile. If you're within a few pennies or for a few dollars, that's a victory. That's a win. I was trained to find it. That's how my dad was a banker. We got to find this nickel. But anyway, I'm not advocating that.
So it's looking for irregularities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because most of us these days, irrespective of your age, it's electronics. Things are coming in and out of your account on a regular basis, and do you really know what's going on in your account? Some people just don't want to sit down and take the time and look at their statements. It's
I love that physicality of it because it's like a practice that you can do with them, however old they are, and like even going into a physical bank. I probably hadn't been in a bank for maybe over a year, and then I just went in one because I needed something. So just going to it, just the physicality of that, just easy access for the kids to understand what things are. And I know like at their schools, they try to get a whole bunch of things. So like they'll get a whole bunch of bucks for something, or a pretend stickers or something like that. So they understand what like the accumulation of something might mean, and then you can understand, it goes over here or it goes over here. We're all participating in this thing.
Yeah.
Just creating physical moments.
I'm a relationship person, so earlier on, and I'll talk a little more about this. Relationships matter. To be successful in your financial, it's just not about your banker. Who's my insurance person? Do I know this person, or did I just go through an 800 website and I bought insurance and I have no idea who these people are? Who's my accountant? There was a great commercial a few years ago. A guy gets audited by the IRS, and his wife says to him, "Oh, you can always take the software box with you to represent you." So it's when you get in when you have issues. If you lose your job, if you're in between jobs, if you're about to retire, you're like, who's my financial planner? Okay, you can go online and have all these great tools, but have you had a conversation with someone like, can you really realistically retire when you're 60 or when you're 65 or when you're 70, whenever you'd like to retire? So it's important.
Hey Chris, question, and maybe you're going to get to this. I think in this digital age that we have, it's almost harder to teach your children to understand the value of money and to know where money's coming from and going. Because, like I remember we were in the grocery store and the kids wanted something. Oh, just use your card, Mom, and just or go to that thing that the money just pops out of, How
I think
you can't do a jar of money anymore.
I think what Becca's talking about, building blocks of a spending and saving plan. I kept this slide because it's colorful, but it's really just put down on paper like where's the money coming in, and then where does it go out. I know people don't use a lot of cash anymore, but showing your kids how to count, like just that it's a good exercise. Counting cash, making change. it's just very important to get involved. And you're right, digitally it's just tougher. It's a tougher way. I think Damian and Lauren brought this up is your first job. That's just like a touch point. Like, okay, how they can handle their paycheck. So then they have to set up some kind of account and use a debit card. So that's one of life's experiences which you get people engaged. And then you get into the importance of managing and saving money. A smart purchase mindset. In this day and age, kids buy different things now. I want an Xbox. I want a bike. I want to travel. You talked about sporting, like when Kim and I, the girls growing up, like Sophia played a lot of travel soccer and travel field hockey. Yes, you're not working, but that is kind of a job because the family's committing resources to those things. Streaming services. You want Spotify, you want Netflix, you want this or that. How are we gonna pay for that? Who's gonna pay for Disney Plus? A card purchase coming up. Some people better than others saving money, buy their first car. Maybe they need help, maybe a family loan, maybe they're gonna get their first loan with the bank. Maybe there's some other arrangement, they're gonna use the family car. All right, so they got a checking account, they have a job, how are they gonna pay for insurance and gas? So that's another, sit down and talk to them. Student loans, we've kind of beaten that dead horse. Okay. PayPal. Anybody here have used PayPal? Okay. Venmo. Venmo's actually owned by PayPal, just so you know. Zelle. Anybody use Zelle? Okay, less hands. Cash App is a new one out in the scene. Okay. Apple Pay, Google Pay. All right. Okay, first up, your most important app to have on your phone is your bank. That's the first app, okay? Cash App, Zelle, many banks have Zelle connected, so you're using Zelle or maybe another. But with the Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, yes, a lot of people use them. What you have to keep in mind is that these apps are doing a great job of separating you from your money. So they're not banks. They're not banks. You're not earning interest there. Okay, so keep those balances as low as possible. Maybe $25, maybe $50. The rest of the money, keep that in your checking account so you know where it is. It's FDIC insured, and if you have an issue, you can talk to your bank. Fortunately, I have not had any issues with PayPal or Venmo, but I can only imagine if you do, who do you call? I have no idea. Probably some kind of chat bot. So this is not the be-all, end-all list, but just something for you to think about. Discussion points. I'm hoping to get some audience participation here. So, someone raise their hand. Give me a good financial habit that you learned as a child or young adult. Anybody got a good, what's a good financial habit?
I think the best thing my dad ever did for me with finances was he would give me all of my spending money for the semester up ahead of time and say, this is what you have, and you're not getting any more, and teach me how to not overspend it. So he gave me the responsibility. And you're not, this is it. You have to figure it out if you run out.
Okay, so that's a great habit, because you quickly, as a young person, figure out like, wow, I got to really manage this. I can't spend it.
Dropping my allowance and getting a job, so I didn't get both. And just, not that I managed my job money well, but but it taught me this sort of a similar thing. It's like, you get this much per 2 weeks. If it's gone, it's gone. You got to get to your job. You got to get from your job.
Yeah, yeah.
buy things on sale, and is it a want or a need? That's what my parents always taught our kids.
Very good.
Being able to make mistakes with low stakes. So, you are able to have this money, I trust you. You're young, okay, you made a mistake, let's talk it out. And then as you got older, the mistakes got bigger, but I was able to make all of my worst mistakes when I was younger.
That's important.
The beauty of thrift stores.
Yes. Yeah, very good, very good. Good habits.
I was gonna say, just saving up, like checking each week how much money you have, like working towards paying for something, not just an immediate,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's neat to see.
purchase.
I hated these, but they were great. Early in my career, passbooks.
Just wanna say passbook. I know.
The good old-fashioned passbook. You go to the bank. As a banker, I hated passbooks.
You can tell, by the way, when you go into a bank that they hate it.
They hate it. We all hate it. You can tell. The customers could tell. But it was so cool because you could see that as a kid. You're like, oh man, look, line 25 is greater than line 24, and the thing just keeps growing. Oh, look, there's interest. I don't know what that is, but my account's growing. Prior to spending your daily life, you'll hear this all the time. I mean, the people come on the cable channels, they'll tell you all these great things. Just keep it simple and do the math in your daily life. Okay, if you want to go to Starbucks every day, that's okay with me. But just know what that financially is doing. So that $5 cup of coffee every day, okay, I'm working 20 days a month on average. So 20 times 5 is what? That's, it's $100. So $100 a month times 12, $1,200 a year I'm spending on my coffee habit.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a Starbucks? Can I see your receipts, please, for 2022? Okay, that's good. Delete that out. Maybe you do Dunkin', I don't know. I mean, so just do the math. You don't have to go crazy. Like, I'm not saying, get rid of all the neat things you do, but just understand the math, what financially where the money's going, and that's how you pass along to the kids, because the kids say, oh, well, if I want to go to Starbucks and they have a job, well, when they start paying for it, then it changes the dynamic. Then maybe they're not doing it every day. There was a cool article I found, role models. There were 6 celebrities in this article. We'll make sure this article is made available for you. But the most important role model is you. That's, you can do celebrities or football players or sports, but the most important. And as I said earlier, it takes time. You got to practice, and you got to encourage people. More stuff. Bankrate is a great website for. They show like national interest rates, which can sometimes not be the best information, but they have a lot of financial calculators out there. Wall Street Journal, if you're a subscriber, and you might be able as a non-subscriber get to it. They have a neat little email called Your Money Briefing, and they're quick reads. So it's not like you got to read like a whole newspaper article. It just takes you a couple minutes. Money Smart, I'm jumping right here. Money Smart at the top. It's at FDIC.gov resource. Kids, grandkids. A lot of good information there. It's well done. They've done a very good job every year. I've spoken to you about Mint, Quicken, Bonsai. At Siena Bank, there's a resource center. Most banks have something like this. It's geared towards different age groups, so it's really neat. And another news article there for you to pull up. Here's my contact information. That's my cell number. You can text me. And I'm serious. If you have any questions, you know, I'm going to be following up on Bob and his coffee hat. But a little quote for you, and I'd like to thank my executive assistant for this, Mrs. Nardo. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. From the sage of, I would say, savings is Warren Buffett. So thank you for listening to me. Appreciate it. And again, if you have any banking questions or periphery financial issues,
Call your banker.
call your banker. Or if you don't know who your banker is, call me and we'll figure it out. Okay? So thank you.
That's it. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next week for more of our conversations.